Shalom, welcome back to the Sequential Zohar Series. Today we are in Bereshit A, chapter 11, and the title of this section is The Luminaries of the Light and the Luminaries of the Fire. Now, that sounds very mystical, and it is. But the message is also very practical. This section is about what happens when Shabbat ends, when the peaceful light of Shabbat begins to withdraw, and the fire of the weekday world comes back in. And if you have ever felt that moment, you know exactly what I mean. There is a different feeling at the end of Shabbat. The table is cleared. The candles have burned down. The quiet starts to shift. The emails, the responsibilities, the unfinished conversations, the work of the week, all of it starts to appear again in the mind. The Zohar is saying, do not rush through that moment. Pay attention to it, because the transition itself is holy. The section begins with the verse from Bereshit, and Elohim made the two great lights. On the surface, we think of the sun and the moon. But the Zohar reads this in a deeper way. There are lights that rise upward, and there are lights that descend downward. There are luminaries of light, and there are luminaries of fire. The luminaries of light are connected with Shabbat. They are connected with the higher, inner, calmer illumination. The luminaries of fire are connected with the weekdays. They are the lights of activity, work, movement, effort, and friction. And this is important. The Zohar is not saying that fire is evil. Fire is necessary. Without fire, there is no cooking, no warmth, no craft, no building, no transformation. Fire is the energy that lets us live in the world and do things in the world. But fire can also burn. Fire can consume. Fire can become anger, pressure, anxiety, urgency, and reaction. So when Shabbat ends, we do not just say, okay, back to normal. We bless the fire. We look at the flame. We acknowledge that the weekday world has a different kind of light, and we ask to enter that world with awareness. That is why, at the end of Shabbat, there is a blessing over the candle. Borei meorei haesh, the creator of the lights of fire. Not just one fire, lights of fire, many shades, many forces, many levels. The Zohar then gives us a detail that can feel strange at first. It speaks about looking at the fingernails in the light of the candle. Why fingernails? Because the fingers represent deep spiritual secrets. Our hands are not just tools, they are how we touch the world. They are how we give, receive, build, bless, point, hold, and sometimes push away. The hand is where inner intention becomes outer action. The Zohar says the fingers have an inner side and an outer side. The inner side is like the face. The outer side, hinted at by the fingernails, is like the back. At the end of Shabbat, we look at the nails, the outer side, because the weekday light is now returning. We are entering the realm of action, the realm of services, the realm where things become visible and practical. We do not stare into the inner side of the fingers by that flame. That belongs to a different light. This is connected to the verse where Moses is told, "You will see my back, but my face will not be seen." The Zohar applies that idea to this moment at the end of Shabbat. We are allowed to see the back, the outer side, the reflected light. But the face, the deepest inner reality, remains hidden. That is a powerful teaching. Because most of us want the face immediately. We want total clarity. We want the whole answer. We want to know why everything happened, what everything means, and exactly how the future will unfold. But the Zohar is training us in humility. It says, in the weekday world, you may not get the whole face. You may get the back. You may get a reflection. You may get a clue. You may get enough light to take the next step. And sometimes, enough light for the next step is the blessing. Shabbat is described here as the time when the Holy One rules alone through the inner face. The worlds receive calm. The holy nation receives the inheritance of the day. The luminaries of light shine by themselves. That is such a beautiful image. Shabbat is not simply a break from work. Shabbat is a different dominion. It is a day when the inner light is allowed to govern. The constant push of the outer world becomes quiet. We are not proving. We are not chasing. We are not producing. We are being returned to the inner face. Then Shabbat ends. The luminaries of light become hidden, and the luminaries of fire begin to govern from the end of Shabbat until the next Shabbat Eve. So the candle is not just a ritual object. It is a teaching tool. It is showing us what kind of world we are stepping into. And the question is, can we carry the calm of the inner face into the fire of the week. That is the real work. Anyone can feel spiritual when everything is quiet. Anyone can feel centered for a few minutes at the table with songs, blessings, and peace around them. But what happens when the phone lights up? What happens when somebody says the wrong thing? What happens when Monday begins? What happens when the fire returns? The Zohar is giving us a practice for that exact moment. Look at the flame. Look at the nails. Look at the outer part of the hand, the part that will go back into the world and do things. And say to yourself, this week, my actions need to reflect the inner light I receive. My hands will send messages. My hands will open doors. My hands will type words. My hands will prepare food. My hands will hold money, tools, books, steering wheels, and other hands. The question is not only what I believe inside. The question is what my outer life reflects. That is why the nails matter. They are the edge. They are the boundary between the inner body and the outer world. They catch the candlelight and remind us that even the most external part of us can reflect holiness. From there, the Zohar moves into the vision of the living creatures in Ezekiel, the beings that run and return. This phrase is very important. Run and return, forward and back, upward and downward, movement and return. Spiritual life is not a straight line. Sometimes we run toward light. Sometimes we return to our place. Sometimes we feel elevated, and then we are back in ordinary life. The mistake is thinking that the return means failure. The Zohar is showing a universe where even the heavenly creatures move in rhythm. They do not just run, they run and return. That rhythm is also in us. We rise on Shabbat, and then we return to the week. We receive inner light, and then we come back to the place where fire rules. The goal is not to escape the week forever. The goal is to return differently. The Zohar mentions the wheel, the Ophan, and names Metatron as a higher figure within that vision. Without turning this into a technical lecture, the point is that the revealed movements below are not independent. They are guided by deeper levels above them. That means our visible life is not all there is. The calendar, the job, the task, the errands, the conversations, the things we can measure and manage, all of that is real. But according to the Zohar, it is riding on something more hidden. The revealed is a chariot for the concealed. Then the text speaks about the letters of the divine name, Yud Ke Vav Ke. The upper, more hidden letters govern the lower, more revealed letters. The lower becomes a vehicle for the upper. Again, this is the same teaching in another form. What is outside should become a vehicle for what is inside. What is visible should serve what is hidden. What we do with our hands should carry what is true in our soul. And this is where the chapter becomes very honest. It says that beyond a certain point, human thought cannot grasp. There is a realm concealed within thought itself. Not only can we not answer every question, sometimes we cannot even form the right question. That can be frustrating, but it can also be freeing. Because when we spend so much energy trying to control what is beyond us, we try to understand every person, every delay, every loss, every strange turn in the road. We try to turn mystery into a spreadsheet. The Zohar says there is a boundary. There is a point above which thought cannot climb. And that does not make the path meaningless. It makes the path sacred. We do not need to understand the whole structure of heaven in order to bless the candle. We do not need to solve every mystery in order to enter the week with cleaner hands, softer speech, and steadier attention. That is why this chapter is so useful. It begins with cosmic lights, the sun, the moon, Shabbat, fire, heavenly beings, divine letters, firmaments, and hidden thought. But it brings all of that back to one very human moment. A person standing near a candle, looking at their fingernails, preparing to re-enter the week. That is the beauty of the Zohar. The greatest mysteries are not somewhere far away from ordinary life. They are inside the ordinary moment, if we know how to read it. So here is a simple way to take this section into practice. At the end of Shabbat, or really at the end of the beginning of any week, pause before you rush forward. Look at the candle if you can, or just imagine that flame. Ask yourself, what kind of fire am I about to carry? Will this be the fire of reaction or the fire of purpose? Will this be the fire of irritation or the fire of transformation? Will this be the fire that burns people or the fire that warms them? Then look at your hands, not in a dramatic way, just honestly. Ask, what will these hands do this week? What will they build? What will they repair? What will they release? What will they refuse to carry? And then remember the distinction between the inner face and the outer back. You may not understand everything. You may not be shown the full face, but you can still reflect light from the place where you are. That is enough to begin. The synopsis of this chapter says that when a person falls into negativity, even deeply, this section can become a lifeline back to the light of the Creator. I think that is because this teaching does not shame us for living in the weekday world. It knows the fire will return. It knows we will face pressure. It knows we will descend from the calm of Shabbat into the complexity of ordinary life. But it also says, do not descend disconnected. Take a spark with you. Take a reflection with you. Take the memory of the inner face with you. Even when you are only dealing with the outer world. So, the message of Bereshit A chapter 11 is this. Shabbat gives us the luminaries of light. The week gives us the luminaries of fire. Our task is to let the fire serve the light, not the other way around. The fire of work should serve the light of purpose. The fire of speech should serve the light of truth. The fire of desire should serve the light of holiness. The fire of ambition should serve the light of humility. And when we forget, we come back to the candle. We come back to the edge of the hand. We come back to the reminder that even the outermost part of us can shine when it turns toward the right light. Let that be your quiet anchor this week. That is our study for today. In the next part of the Sequential Zohar Series, we will continue forward, one section at a time, allowing the text to build its own path. For now, let this be the meditation for the week. May my fire serve my light. May my actions reflect my inner truth. And may the transition from holiness into ordinary life become holy as well. Shalom.